560.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Kraus on the Thursday morning WGNS Roundtable. Wishing you all a wonderful morning. Don't forget, we changed to daylight saving time in 48 hours. One thing nice about daylight saving time, when you leave work, it's still sunny outside. If you have to get up early, it's dark. But be sure and always remember, spring forward and fall back. We've got two gentlemen coming in a few minutes who are going to be talking about character and the principles of character. I guess if I were to ask each and every one of you, how would you measure your own character, your ethics, your principles? We certainly know in today's world and today's society that dissension, principles, character, ethics is certainly on the shooting line, certainly on the balance of who are we and what are we. I always like to initially start with a discussion of ethics. And ethics is basically a process. It's a system by decision-making and of decision-making about the moral issues of right and wrong. But how do we define the moral issues of right and wrong? When you make a decision, whether it's to go somewhere, whether it's to befriend somebody, whether it's to visit someone, whether it's to invest, whether it's to purchase, how do you make those decisions? And how do you balance those decisions against morality? What are the morals of people? We like to talk about not the correct behavior, but rather emphasize decisions that are right for each individual. Do you give thought when you make a decision about the short-term and the long-term effects of that decision? You might like to make a decision that is immediate gratification, immediate satisfaction, but over the long term, it could be the poorest decision you have ever made. So how do you balance between the short term and the long term? We will be talking with Ed Smith, who is the president of a college that's based in Williamson County, but also has a satellite campus here in Rutherford County. Ed Smith is president of Williamson College. And he will be talking about what his school, it's not a commercial, but what his school considers as character. Because most business schools in the United States are responding to what appears to be a breakdown in our moral behavior by establishing courses in business ethics. How do we practice? How do we develop leadership that has a moral value and a ethical value? So we will be talking with them about, and he's bringing along his associate Steve, and they'll be talking about leadership. A lot of schools teach management, which is the practice and the carrying out of tasks in a well and efficient manner. Leadership is creating the spirit, creating the morality, creating the drive, creating the insight of who we are and where we should go. We are more concerned about talking about character as a major component of what an education should be. We should be teaching character as at the beginning of elementary school, in first grade, second grade, third grade. How would you consider yourself to be ethical? How would you want people to refer to you as a highly ethical person? For example, here's some questions that you might ask yourself. Is it ethical to take home office supplies from work to home use? Is it ethical to make personal long-distance calls from your place of work? Do you use company time for personal business? Or do these behaviors actually constitute stealing? How do you measure your time when you're on your little cell phone at work? Do you say, well, I have some free time, I have some opportunity to take a breath, take a break from what I'm doing at work? But how do you measure? How do you measure between the difference of working and living your work motivation, your work ethics, your work morality with your personal use. Being in public service for many years as I was, we always would raise the question, can you define the difference between a bribe and a gift? If a person takes you out to dinner and you're an elected or appointed official and they pick up the tab for dinner, is that a gift or is that a bribe? Do they expect something in return? That probably would be the major difference as an ethical question of when you're trying to define between what is a bribe and what is a gift. A bribe has certain legal implications that you may be tried on taking a certain amount of money or a vacation home or a trip in exchange for a specific purpose. But what happens if somebody gives you a gift? Do they expect something in return? If you give somebody a gift, do you expect something in return? We also take a look at ethical behavior of co-workers. If you witnessed unethical behavior and you don't report it, are you an accessory? Are you an accessory? So the big question comes when we talk about character. Do we strive for wealth? Do we strive for power? Would you give up your privacy and live always in the public eye? I have asked this of elected and appointed officials, more elected officials so often. To what degree are you willing to give up your privacy? To what degree are you willing to give up your independence to be in the public eye? And in what ways does your ethics at work or your ethics at school or your ethics in a social setting different from those in your personal life? Do you think you have a better reputation in your professional or personal dealings? Let me say that again because I think it's so important. Do you think you have a better reputation in your professional or in your personal dealings? Carrying on, we would also ask the question, if you were offered a bribe, and this not necessarily be just in public service, this could be in a corporate setting. If you were offered a bribe, what would you do? What would you say? What would you best define and describe? So a bribe literally becomes a very, very serious question legally and also morally. People are motivated by two types of drives, needs and values, or attitudes, needs, and values. Have you ever thought, how do you define a need versus a want? You need water, but you may want a type of liquid to satisfy the need for water. You need food, but you want a 4,000-calorie meal to enjoy food. So ethics are the practice of values and standards. Ethics is something one does. Morals are principles one holds. One of the things that have affected our ethical and value has been basically technology. Technology. Have we become more impersonal because we now communicate with people over a machine rather than in person? Do we use our words differently when we text somebody versus when we converse with somebody? And we really have to balance the technology and the humanism. I, for one, have always been put down the cell phone, put down the texting, and talk to people. Talk to people. We want to also, at this point, as part of this morning's program, this is a variety of programs this morning, want to introduce to you a lady who was here recently on the air. She is the Dean of Humanities and Social Science at Motlow State Community College, a wonderful lady whose background is in psychology, but her background is also involved in so many different areas to be involved in. Dr. Pam Harris. Good morning, Pam.
Hello, Dr. Kraus.
You must have had
ya?
a drive here.
I did. I was here earlier, but so I've been here about 20 minutes. So.
Where were you? I'm going to...
Sitting in the parking lot.
Oh, you didn't see me come in?
Yes, and I thought my time was at 9:30.
Oh,
so.
no, here you are. Well, let's cut to the chase, and let me kind of frame this in a certain way. I will say this from a personal as well as a professional manner. Pam Harris is one of the most outstanding, wonderful, innovative, motivating, encouraging, and exciting people I have ever worked with in many years of public service and academic world. And Pam has a heart, and Pam has a logic, and Pam is a human being. We had a wonderful chat here a couple of months ago when Pam was talking from the aspect of psychology and the aspect in terms of teaching and the aspect in terms of what's the students' emotional issues right now. But shortly after that, Pam, do you want to tell the story? Because I think this is so true that so many people or their loved ones have experienced when you went to the doctor's office.
Yes, I actually ended up.
Did you know something was wrong, or did you? You were here and had your voice was hoarse, and you
Yes.
had a kind of a clogged up, like we all do around
Yes.
Tennessee and in the altitude of Tennessee.
Yes, yes.
But
allergy state, definitely.
yes. At what point did you go to the doctor just for a physical, or you just were not feeling well?
I woke up one morning and my blood pressure was extremely high. I've been on a beta blocker since I was 19. I have an arrhythmia, so periodically my blood pressure kind of gets out of control. And when I say high, it's like 217 over 118. So really,
That is
truly,
high.
truly high. And so I woke up and I thought, okay, it's one of those. About every 2 or 3 years, I need to drive myself to the emergency room. I get there, they take me back. And, typically in that day, what I find happens is they'll.
You remember the date? The day and the date?
Yes, February the 13th.
I mean, days left. Wasn't Friday.
No. Well, my husband and I first met on Friday, February the 13th. We actually got engaged on February the 13th.
So this was a quasi-anniversary event.
It was. It definitely was. And so we went in. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. And my blood pressure was high. They brought me on back. Usually they give me a shot. They'll give me a couple of other things. They'll reduce my blood pressure. And it just wouldn't go down that day. It just wouldn't go down. And so the young lady that was there, I was at Vanderbilt in Tullahoma where I live. And the young lady just continued to run tests. They did blood work. My heart looked good. They redid the blood work 3 hours later. We spent about 13 hours in the emergency room that day. And in one of those, just the young lady, I don't know, just her gut instinct was, I want to know why this is happening to you. And she said, tell me anything else. And so I said, well, hey, periodically I get a little nauseous when I eat. I don't always feel well, as far as right after I eat. And I have some back pain, but I've always had back pain. Everybody who works has back pain. Right?
Absolutely.
So you don't
carrying the load of the world.
Yeah, I mean, you're 60 years old. You just go, I have back pain. And she said, okay, so let's do these 2 CTs. And they did the 2 CTs, and they came back and said that you have a 4.9 centimeter mass, which is a pretty good size mass, about the size of a golf ball or Ritz cracker, however you want to look at that. And originally they thought, well, okay, that this is possibly an infection, and that's because they're looking at different things. So they doubled me up on 2 arms in antibiotics. And then after that, in a little while, I guess probably I waited a while, and the urologist came by, and the urologist said the mass is not an infection. I happen to be very blessed, very fortunate, divine intervention, whatever you would like to call it in the scheme of the world. And he came in, and the man I talked to, he's only been in Tullahoma like 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow.
Was an expert in this particular thing, had removed kidneys for 33 years. It's what his specialty was.
It was not by coincidence.
No, it was not. I truly believe it was divine intervention. And he said, this is a tumor.
And he looked at you when he said that?
He did.
And I don't necessarily want to get that personal.
You can.
What was your first immediate reaction? You're a psychologist. You're one who deals with emotions. You're one who deals with feelings. You're one who deals with response. But yet inside you, what did you feel?
I think what your initial reaction is to this is, and he was pretty detailed when he told me it was a tumor. He gave me all these details that kind of came as a surprise and a shock. I mean, like he said, okay, the tumor's not on the outside. If the tumor on the outside of the kidney, then they could do an ablation if it were small enough, or they could freeze it. But it's on the inside, and 85% of them are cancerous. He said, in this case, a lot of times they won't do a biopsy. I didn't know that because it can remove the encapsulation
And exploded out to the rest of the body.
Yes, and cause it to metastasize. So he said, and so along with him telling me it's a tumor, he said, I feel sure that it's cancer. Along with that, he said, the only way to fix this is to remove your kidney.
Wow.
And so my blessed sweet...
And you'd been there how long in the emergency
13
room?
13 hours.
What a day.
My blessed husband, sweetheart that he is, had been with me 12 hours and 50 minutes of that.
Yes.
And in the 10 minutes that this man comes in to tell me that, he had to go.
Oh.
So I'm sitting there by myself, and he goes, it's a tumor.
Oh.
There's nothing to do but remove your kidney.
Wow.
And so I'm going, oh my gosh, they're going to have to transfer me to Vanderbilt. And he goes, it's not emergent. He goes, as far as I'm concerned, we can let you go home tonight and then come back on Friday. But you asked me what my reaction, first response was, you are truthfully, just like when you lose someone you really love, your first response is total and complete shock.
Yeah. You shut down the logic. You shut down.
I didn't shed a tear. I didn't have an emotional reaction. It just literally, it's like in the moment where you're there, you're listening, and you're trying to take in as much information as possible, but you're in shock. You're just in
You
complete...
suddenly realize morality is staring at you.
Yes, and all the things, I've had such crazy things going on for the last 3 or 4 months. Just this massive amount of nuttiness at my house, skunked. My dog got skunked, and my girl, had to have the garage door fixed and a pipe burst. All of these things, and I have a pretty stressful job.
Welcome to 2024.
Oh, Lord, yes. And so all of these things you're thinking are this massive amount of things that's making me crazy. And in one moment you're sitting there, and yes, you're shocked, but in one moment you realize and you understand my life changed. The things that you think are important and that you take for granted, all of those things are blurred. And you just hear that information, you hear that news, and you go, wow.
So what's the journey ahead?
The journey ahead is, because it is, and I am blessed in the fact that it is stage 1 is what they are currently telling me. They have done an MRI. I see the specialist next Friday, so we had to end up waiting 4 weeks, which I'm not sure. I'm having to really learn. I'm a very take charge kind of woman. That is my personality, and I have had.
And your profession.
Yes, and my profession is what makes me good at my job.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I've had to wait 4 weeks to be able to see a specialist. I don't know when I see the specialist how long I'll have to wait before I have surgery. There's so many things that I don't know. Right now, the prognosis, or what the doctor that told me in Tullahoma, was the fact that they will remove my kidney. I am very fortunate, very blessed, to be honest, that my kidney function is fantastic. He says, especially for my age. And so I have a really great prognosis. Of course, I'm also pragmatic in the fact that we never know. I won't know for sure anything until I talk to the specialist. So I have tried to concentrate on the moment, the here and now, loving those that I can, trying not to get frustrated. I find that there are times that things frustrate me, because I find that people really, especially, it seems like in our world, they are concentrating on all these things that bother them so much that are not what is important, what we should be really concentrating on. We have really learned, or we have created a society in which we concentrate on things that don't matter at all.
Exactly.
They don't matter at all.
And it's hard for us when something does occur, how we shift gears to accommodate it.
Yes.
And we may just take the immediate shock. I ask that question because of a personal reason. And I still think of Vanderbilt, and I still think of the Department of Urology. And I can recall a November 2007. I go that far back. And I remember my primary doctor wanted some tests to be taken, PSA, etc. and I went to see the urologist, and I will never forget him. And I commented on this in classes about the personal behavior, the emotional behavior, and the professional behavior. And he came out to greet me in the waiting room, and he was walking ahead of me to take me to the little room. And as he's walking, very nonchalantly, he says, "Dr. Kraus, you have cancer."
Yeah.
I said, "Don't you at least want me to sit down and tell me? Do you just do this as a casual?" It was prostate, which so many men get, and blessed, thank goodness, thank the God, that under control and so forth all these years later. But you always think of that first reaction, and it's something like, what does your rationale come up with? How do you draw conclusions? And then how do you change your life? Well, it's kind of interesting, at least from my own experience, the human being does adjust and adapt and react over a period of time, and it creates a new process, it creates a new journey, it creates a new path, not necessarily a negative path, not necessarily one with limitations or restrictions, but one that says, okay, it's a different life. We are adapting to different lives. So, of course, you will certainly be in our prayers and thoughts on this journey ahead. But I guess the one question, and maybe this is a very personal question, I guess a doctor would say, how many people are out there now living wonderful lives with one kidney?
Yes.
And you begin to say there are thousands. I can't give you a data, but there are thousands who are living totally normal lives, living with one. I had a class last night, not at MTSU or Motlow State, and there's a gentleman in the class, and this is actually the first time I've ever had this, was a veteran from Afghanistan, and he's without his two legs. Mm-hmm. And we have talked, okay, let's talk adjustment, adaptation, not just physical, but your emotional adaptation to a new chapter of your life. Not all chapters are great news, not all chapters are bad news, but how do we make the chapter lead into the next chapter of our life journey and make it appropriate?
I think for me, a couple of things have really come from this that, and I'm just going to be honest with you because it's the kind of person I am. I have faith. Mm-hmm. I know there's something beyond this world, and so for me, I'm astounded at the level of peace that I feel. I'm astounded at the level of reprioritizing that has happened in my own life. I do before, and I hope it's okay with you, there are a couple of things really that I have discovered now that this has happened to me.
Can we hold on those thoughts
absolutely.
As we take a... Oh, we can go ahead?
Okay, great.
Okay, and then we'll have our other folks come on in.
Right.
But we can take a brief break right now, and then we'll have Dr. Harris come back with these thoughts, and then we'll be bringing the other two gentlemen, and I'd like you to stay with these other two gentlemen. This will be an interesting composite.
I'm so sorry.
Where is the best barbecue in town? In 1920, East Main, the best barbecue for miles around is in 1920. East Main, you can buy it by the pound, sandwich, platter, or plate. No matter what you choose, it will taste great. You can come with a friend, by yourself, or with a date. Just Lick Pig Barbecue. Barbecue pork, beef, or chicken, Brunswick stew, great sides, lunch specials, down-home atmosphere, and they cater. Slick Pig Barbecue, it's the best.
Looking for something to take your mind off this traffic? How about a true story of instant success? Did you hear about the two friends who went grocery shopping in Ashland City and picked up everything on their list plus $75,000? Or the one where a truck driver made a last-minute stop off Interstate 40 and drove off with a cool $1 million? All their lives changed in an instant, and yours could too. So stop by your local retailer for your chance with instant games from the Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing, life-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
This message for all the men out there. Ladies, cover your ears. If you've been feeling tired and grumpy and have noticed a lack of motivation and drive, have weight gain and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels. And at Low T Center, they make it quick and easy to get your levels checked. It's as simple as a blood test with their on-site lab, and they'll get your results back in about 25 minutes. What I love about Low T Center is geared towards us, men. They know we don't like to wait around. They know we're impatient, and they know that we like things simple. For me, at times, that means making things a little more simple to understand, too, because we're guys, and we're more focused on heading home to start working on that project car in the garage. Who knows what you're thinking? We're guys, there's no telling. But let me recommend Low T Center. Most health insurance is accepted for treatment there, and they have the affordable and convenient treatment options that include physician-monitored self-inject at-home treatment for their established patients, shipping treatments directly to you. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the Law Offices of John Day. For more than 30 years, my team and I have worked hard to help injured people throughout Middle Tennessee. Over that time, we've helped thousands of people get the legal help they need when they've needed it the most. And if we're not able to help or aren't the right lawyer for you, we'll do the best to point you in the right direction. If you've been injured, call the law offices of John Day for a free consultation. And remember, there's no fee unless we win your case.
WGNS reminds you, this is the weekend to spring forward. Set your clock ahead 1 hour before you go to bed this Saturday night. And this Saturday morning is the 13th annual Special Kids Race. It begins at 7 o'clock Saturday morning, and that's at the Murfreesboro Medical Clinic and Surgery Center. For more information, get in touch with Special Kids. The Red Cross is still critically low on blood. Give blood to the Red Cross. Phone the Red Cross at 800-RED-CROSS and make an appointment to give blood at a time that fits your schedule. Put this on your calendar. The Tennessee Philharmonic's Music Excellence Award presents a family concert, not this weekend, but next weekend, Saturday at 7 o'clock in the evening at Bel Air Baptist Church. It is free. And there are 2 productions wrapping up this weekend. Dear Miss Barrett at the Center for the Arts in Uptown Murfreesboro, along with The Adventures of Tom Sawyer at the Art Center of Cannon County in neighboring Woodbury. This weekend, the final performance for both of those. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
Mostly cloudy skies here for this afternoon with a high in the upper 60s. Tonight, a slight chance for rain late, mostly cloudy, a low near 54. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 57.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. MTE's Plugged In podcast focuses on the world of electric vehicles. Stay up to date on the EV world, hear interviews with experts, and more. Listen on your favorite podcast platform or visit mte.com/pluggedin.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Bill Kraus again on the wonderful WGNS Roundtable on a beautiful Thursday morning. Almost looks a little bit like London or Seattle out there, but in Seattle you'll get torrential drizzle most of the time. Here we are with rain. We're having a wonderful visit with a dear, dear lady, Dr. Pam Harris, who is the Dean of Social Sciences and Humanities at Mount Little State, and have just been joined by 2 individuals, the president of Williamson College, based in Franklin, with the satellite campus in Rutherford County, Dr. Ed Smith, and Dr. Smith's colleague, Steve. I'm not sure what your title is, just consultant, friend.
Well, he's named me the executive director for our new Center for Character Formation at the college.
Perfect. So we're having a visit with Dr. Harris based upon a terrible experience that she recently, that so many of us have gone through, our families and friends have gone through, to have a doctor tell you you have cancer and you are going to have your kidney removed shortly. and Pam was just sharing with that. And that will be the interlude as we go from how you deal with news like that, how you deal with an event that can dramatically change your life of your loved ones, your life of those around you, and go into what defines character and ethics on behalf of people, and how the points of ethics and the points of character that Steve and Ed are going to be talking about. And we're going to kind of interrelate this discussion because there is some comparative. So Pam, you were saying just before the break,
there was really, to me, there was a couple of important things about this situation for me. First, I try to keep in good spirits. I mentioned earlier that's because I have faith. I know, that I'm going to be carried in this, and I know no matter what the circumstances, everything will be okay no matter what they are. So I always want to let people know that. And then the second thing is, I think when this happens, people don't know how to respond. And so one of the things I really wanted to talk about for me was most important coming here today was that often people want to call or they don't call when you have tragedy, when you have the loss of a loved one or someone says they have cancer. They go, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And so I always, and here's what I would typically say, is call anyway, text anyway, tell people I love you, I'm thinking about you. If you're a praying person, I pray for you. If not, then I care for you. And I would say let people know that. It is highly important to receive that support. The other thing I always say is really do be careful with what you say. In my opinion, lots of people want to tell you their stories about cancer. For those who are in that moment, it's very difficult to hear that. So instead of trying to give advice or trying to give the stories about, hey, I know this person, because everyone really truly can relate, I would say just saying, hey, I'm sorry. I know this is hard. I'm thinking about you. I care about you. How can I encourage you? That was probably the best message I received from two people was, how can I encourage you? A lot of people want to give you advice, and this journey is personal for everybody, and so I just want to let people know, just ask, how can I encourage you? I'm sorry, I'm thinking of you, I'm praying for you, whatever it might be. So I really do want to encourage people to do that. And really, it is so hard when people begin to tell you stories of, I know someone with cancer. Unfortunately, some people have told me of people they know they have cancer who have passed or had terrible times with that, and I would definitely say stay away from that. Exactly. But be of encouragement and not advising. I think in this situation, the person has a personal journey. They're having to figure that out, and encourage them, let them know I'm here, and let them reach out to you.
The interesting thing is, of many people I know, there are a number of people I know who will not go up to a family that's lost somebody at a funeral. I don't know what to say. I make just come up and I'll lose my words. Give them a hug. That's all you need to do, is give them a hug. I do have to say that the outpouring from faculty and staff of people throughout the Motlow family has just been so outstanding to Pam. And I just think friendships and associations, and not necessarily words of encouragement that may be really not true words, but words that we are with you and you're in our prayers.
Yes.
Segueing to character, how would you define character as it involves dealing with someone like this? Can you teach people character, or can you just bring out that gene called character in a person?
Well, at Williamson College, we obviously believe you can teach character. If we can't, we probably should find another profession to be in. But we started about 2 years ago with the assistance here of Steve Griffin, who's just done a deep dive of research on the subject of character. And we felt like that with the country being in the state it's in, our social fabric is being pulled apart by just animosity. We hear all the time about mental health conditions in America. We've got a crisis. And so we had to ask the question at the college, well, what do we do about this?
Mother Teresa said, if you want to change the world, start with your family. And our family is the Williamson College family. And so we began to research, what would we do with this subject of character? How do we bring our communities back where we focus on what's most important? And Steve helped us identify 8 character traits that we're now implementing into our college curriculum track, and we're excited this year to be kicking off this Center for Character Formation.
Why don't the two of you give a little bit of your background, your professional background, before you got into education? Because I think it's where the seed grew and where the flowers are now blooming. But where did the seed grow in terms of Ed and Steve?
I'll start real quick, and then I'll let Steve follow up with his story. I came to Nashville in the early 80s to work in the banking industry. And I've grown up in kind of the for-profit world, migrated eventually into a world of nonprofits, but originally I was here to work in the banking industry. And in my mid-20s, I came to Nashville, and most people that knew me at the time would probably have said, well, Ed's a guy of moral fabric, he's a moral person, and I never caused my family problems in junior high, high school. When I went to college, I stayed out of trouble, studied hard, but I came here. You might have considered me a moral person, but I was fortunate enough to be around 2 executives in the banking industry. One is Ed White, the other Terry Turner, both of them at the top of their game at Pinnacle Bank today, and they demonstrated character, and they had character traits that I didn't have. Mm-hmm. And I admired that and began to mimic that, and it was over the course of many years that I began to realize morals is not enough. There are certain character traits that are vitally important. And so that's my story. Steve, you might want to share.
You were in the entertainment field.
I started out in the Christian music space and in the filmmaking. I'm a filmmaker in the music space. I'm an entrepreneur, Bill. Mm-hmm. I am a serial entrepreneur who loves to create organizations and businesses
and make success.
And make success and make money. I'm still a capitalist. And so as I've got in, and Ed and I started working, you have these seminal moments in your life, whether it's a discovery of kidney cancer or it's discovery. I was doing an interview with, just like this, a radio talk show, but I was on the phone. I was promoting a movie called The Last Ounce of Courage. It was a little movie about keeping Christ in Christmas. A little story. Mm-hmm. It was during an election year. And they put me on a very liberal talk show in Detroit, Michigan, where I was to talk about the film. And for some reason, before we started the interview, I asked the host, your equivalent, I asked a simple question. I ask all the time, and I'd never asked it before. I said, are you a person of character? And if I asked you that question, Bill, you would say, well, yes, I'm a person of character.
I've been told I've been a character all my life.
And I think that's a true statement, Bill, since I know you well. Uh-huh. But I think the other thing we learn about that is I ask a second question. It's the second question. I said, well, I don't remember his name, but I said, well, I'm glad you're a person of character. I'm trying to be too. I said, what's your character based on? And there was a stunned pause. What's the worst thing in talk radio, Bill?
Pause.
Silence, right? And he couldn't. So I said, let me help you. It can't be based on a politician, a cleric, a pastor, a rabbi, a priest, your parents. It has to be based on something unchangeable, rock solid. He said, well, I guess it has to be based on God. Mm-hmm. I said, well, that's the only unchangeable truth that I'm aware of in the universe, so I agree with that. So that, in 2012, that's taken me on a life journey of how can I be a business person and create business cultures of character. And Billy Graham said it best. He said, when you lose your wealth, nothing is lost. Correct. When you lose your health, a little is lost. But when you lose your character, all is lost. And so you take that quote, Bill, and you apply it into education. Colleges, including Motlow State and Williamson College, we do a great job of teaching what I refer to as the what. We started back at Harvard in their business school all those years ago, teaching people how to be beasts in business, how to be very good at the what, how to make a lot of money, cutthroat, and all the things that we've trained up society. And at the same time, we quit teaching character. So we are committed at our college for the first 2 years of an education of teaching the how. How do you have a mindset that allows you to think in a way that's laden with character? We have 8 traits, and I'll give them to you very quickly. The true north of our compass starts with and ends with love. If we don't have love of our fellow man at the center of that, and I'm sure our doctor beside me from Motlow Tate can talk from a sociological and a psychological perspective, love has to be the main thing, and we don't have that in society anymore.
How do we define love?
Well, I define it is agape love from the Bible, but and it resonates with positive psychologists today, a selfless love. We are consumed with self in America today, and how do we reposition our mindset so that we think about others as important as ourselves, and we don't do that. So it moves from love, Bill, to a thing that they call transcendence, and transcendence to me points to God and to faith and to spirituality, but to the rest of the positive psychologists, it points to looking past yourself to something greater than self. That's important. So that's the second part of the compass. Then it goes to wisdom and knowledge. Colleges do a great job of teaching wisdom and knowledge, but what we fail to teach is that should lead to clarity of thought. How do I define that thought? And from there it goes down to courage. Do we have the courage in society to stand up and make those decisions that contribute to society more than they contribute to Steve? I'm really good at courage when it's about contributing to Steve, not to society. And then on the bottom is justice. I find that interesting. We didn't design it this way, but the true opposite of love, it's expressed as justice. Justice expressed best is love for mankind. And then it takes us a little out of the traditional virtues of Aristotelian virtue ethics. It takes us into what I'm calling conveyance. How do we take a thought captive, put it through that process? Our college students learn this at Williamson College. And then how do we convey that thought into the public? It's either a word, an action, a decision, which leads then to empathy and insight. We have to have that as we make those decisions today. And then the final trait is the one I hate the most because I don't have any of it. It's self-control and temperance, right? Those are old-sounding words, Bill,
Well,
but you're laughing at me.
No,
I know.
no, I'm laughing with you.
but the point is, we call that choice. Sure. If you think about our life, we deal in an artificial intelligence. It's a big buzzword. Well, artificial means created by man or machine. We have a worldview and a mindset that we train students to operate with artificial intelligence. When we argue there's authentic intelligence, which you want to keep that lever in your mind always pushed over to that, so you make choices then, you express yourself through love in a way that benefits society better than self. When you do that, we think we can contribute now to people coming together versus tearing apart. That's what we're going to try to do at the college in a nutshell.
Probably one question before we look at Ed on this one. Pam, based upon what Steve initially shared and Ed is going to share, you're going into a new chapter of life.
Yes.
Not by your own doing, but you now have to adjust in the new chapter.
Yes.
Do you see this new chapter of life not only changing character or reaffirming your character, reaffirming your, quote, attitudes and emotions?
I think for me that as hard as it is to say that growth comes in pain.
That's a neat comment.
Right. And so when we are most challenged in life, we really truly find and define our character. Not long ago, I was talking about when I got this diagnosis, and I said if it were going to be someone, I would prefer that it were me over my husband or my children or my mother or my family. And I think part of that is the fact that I was raised. I strongly believe that the only way that our character can grow and that we can even find peace, and I don't mean happiness. I think we have a real search for happiness that is wrong in life. We need peace and contentment. And so for me, it is the idea that my character is going to grow in this. I will have to make sacrifices. I understand that I will have to do for others. I have to look beyond myself because I have a family. I still have to take care of other people, love them. I have a granddaughter that I love dearly. So I think as far as my character, I really truly hold on to the fact, as hard as it is, that that growth does come in pain. Growth comes in the hard, but it is when we cling the hardest to our faith. It is when we learn really truly who we are, what our character is, when you face circumstances that you have absolutely no control over. it is when we define the best who we are. That's where I'm at. I'm in a waiting mode. I'm in a I don't know mode. And
You're in the lobby.
I am.
But you're ready to go into up the steps.
I am, and I told my husband this morning, I know what God is trying to teach me, and that is just simply the fact, Pam, you got to listen. You don't know where you're headed. You never really truly know, but in this moment, I have no idea. And so it is the idea that my character is being built now by him to whatever he chooses. And I have found myself going, it doesn't matter, whatever you want from me, that's where I'm at. I know he's changing me, and I know this is the way he's doing that. I try, and I also go, I really think he can use me to talk to other people.
Exactly.
Because when they hear me say, you know what, when people call me, they expect me often to be crying or sad or, you know, all of these other things, and I go, I'm in good spirits. I have a peace that I cannot explain to you except from the fact that it comes from God. And so,
Ed, you've got a comment on this one. I know it'd be very
I really
easy.
do. You know, we hear frequently stories where people will reflect back on the pain, the suffering that they've gone through, and say, it's really produced character, strength in my life. On the backside of that pain, I'm a better person. Now, on the front end, when we're told that, look at the good that comes from this, most of us would want to run the other direction. Yes. We don't want to go through that kind of pain. It's only looking back that we can see how that we are refined by fire. It was recently that New York Times columnist David Brooks wrote in an article, I think I've got this correct, on how America got mean. And one of the things that he cited in this article was a statistic over the last decade. High school students, 44% of high school students today, and it's a dramatic increase over the last 10 years, 44% of high school students said that they're going through a period of deep sadness and hopelessness. I mean, think about it. Almost half
Children
of high school students are experiencing that level of hopelessness. And this is where we believe character can come into play. And so our goal is to come alongside these students and begin to show them the different 8 points on this scale, Steve, especially courage. How can we courageously look at moments like this and allow us to proceed through this and become stronger in the process? This is an important time in our communities, in our nation, and we've got to find a better way. And we believe that this character is one way to approach it.
Well, you go back to this point and you specifically say, okay, I'm at a new beginning of a new chapter. I can make it a great chapter. I can make it a not great chapter. So you initially identify what tools of attitude do I need to take out of my toolbox and apply to this next chapter. And I think Pam has certainly shared already. And it's interesting you mentioned that 44% because that's exactly what we talked about when you were on the air last time about the student emotional levels.
And I will say, Bill, one of the things we try to teach our students is you have to prepare for life events in advance. You can't wait until you're in the middle, the emotional moment, to then begin to reflect, how do I think? So we're trying to suggest to our students, to teach our students, here are some ways to prepare. And when you find yourself as a business person out there and you're at the end of a quarter and your financial statements don't look exactly the way they should, and you're tempted to modify that balance sheet and then come back the next quarter and unscramble the eggs, so to speak. I mean, I had a chief financial officer who spoke to my Rotary Club in recent years who went to prison because they decided, let's do something that will benefit our stockholders and our employees, and we're just going to
tweak
massage this balance sheet a little bit. We'll come back the next quarter and make a correction. you know what? You can't wait until you get in the stresses and the emotion of the moment. You have to prepare yourself in advance so when it comes, you know exactly how you're going to behave, how you're going to operate. And Steve calls this personal operating mindset.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. When Pam talked earlier, it struck me. The goal of aligning our character with something bigger than ourselves and learning these 8 steps, and there's a lot of other positive psychology applications, is what we heard Pam answer a few minutes ago is she's authentic. Everybody strives for authenticity, right? Authenticity is really the simplest definition for your listeners today. It's when a person's beliefs line up with their actions and their thoughts and their words. So there's conflict when you're not authentic, right? I'm acting in a way that I don't believe in, but the world wants me to act. There's a lot of peer pressure. Social media has impacted that. But what you saw here is a lady going through a tough time in her life, and she's showing her listeners that she's authentic in what she believes and how she thinks and acts. That's what education. So we don't want to tell people how to think. That's what colleges have done unsuccessfully. That's why some of the larger colleges are getting in trouble these days for telling people how to think. We want to give them a mindset to show them how they should approach life. And that's just in business, that's in raising your family, that's in your relationships, that's in your culture, it's in your church. Everywhere you have a chance, can you be authentic? And you're authentic when you do in the dark what you would do in the light. It's that simple.
Pam, do you think you're being tested?
I think it's a very strange thing, but okay, so that's a complicated question, Bill. That is so complicated. Here's ultimately what I think. I think that the world is a broken and decayed place, and it has been from the moment that sin entered the world. Do I think that I'm being tested? I think life is just tough. Bad things happen to good people all the time, but I'm not sure if it's really tested so much as just the world is a broken place. And when there's brokenness, we all get hurt. And I think for me, it's a circumstance that it is that way. So I think the test comes in the idea of how I handle it. Not that necessarily I'm tested by God, but the fact that what is occurring now will help define me further. Yes, I think that part of it, but I just think that the world's a broken place. And I think going back to the hopelessness like Bill and I had talked about last time, there are so many college students who say, I don't want to bring children into this world, that I don't have hope, that I don't see this, and I'm with you. They desire to have a sense of belonging. And if I can love them in these moments, that's probably the test for me, is learning how to wait, be patient. I never pray for patience, by the way. But that is what I think the test for me is in this moment is, I felt real anger. I wasn't angry necessarily at God when they told me this. Or the doctor. Right, or the doctor. I just felt a sense of unfairness. And, in that moment, when I was thinking about that, I had to come to a place where I went, life is broken, life is hard, life is tough, it's not fair. But for me, I get to choose whether or not I'm dependent on God and whether or not people see me say, this is okay. This is okay. It's hard, but it's okay.
Look at the mission that the three of you share. Look at the similarity, the commonality that the three of you share. Williamson College, Ed and Steve, talking about a problem that they have seen, they have experienced in terms of lack of character. Here is Pam Harris, who has experienced recently a problem that was not her doing, but a problem that just occurred. But all three are sharing their plan to suddenly respond to the lack or minimum number of character that human beings have, whether it's through designing coursework at Williamson College that specifically addresses character as a primary human life, or Pam, who I am sure will be speaking to people throughout the college and throughout the community about you can do it as well as I'm doing this. You can beat it as well as I can beat it. So look at this and use this as a message for all of you. What are you doing to help build character? What are you doing in your personal lives? What are you doing in your professional lives? What are you doing in your social lives, in your community lives to make the world better by having character. How about a final comment from each of you, and we will be then having you think about character.
Many people are probably wondering, Williamson College, where are you? Well, our main campus is in Franklin, Tennessee, but we have a site also in Smyrna. And we're a young liberal arts, Christ-centered college. And if you want to learn more about us, just go to williamsoncc.edu, Williamson as in the county, williamsoncc.edu to learn more.
And is there a telephone number?
There is 615-771-7821.
One more time for the listener.
615-771-7821.
And Steve?
Well, our goal is to change the character of the world one interaction at a time.
8 billion times.
8 billion times. And it starts with getting students that can be leaders, not managers, students that want to lead into a situation and make a difference in the world. We think it has to start and end with character. And then add the vocational aspects on top of that, and they'll really flourish in all aspects of their life.
And one thing about Williamson College, we think about character and learning in school, learning in classwork, about how to be successful in the business world or in the professional world. I can't think of a more important place to show character than your own personal lives, with your family, with your spouse, with your children, with your grandchildren. That's where character starts. That's what character, the goal may be. And Pam?
Since I'm here on a personal basis, I'm going to say my what I want to leave with is the fact of make sure you love the people, everyone. Make sure you love them. I think that's the one thing in life that's always been consistent to me. People that struggle are drawn to me, and it's because I love them. I love them. And if we're going to do anything, if we're going to change anything in this world as people who are of faith, we have to love. We have to love. We have to teach that to one another. And I always say, too, to the people that work with me, if we do the right thing, it's always the right thing. So love one another. Be kind to one another. Make sure you're doing the things that matter. Prioritize those things that really matter in your life, your loved ones, the things that will have an eternal value.
Pam, and you may or may not want to do this, but let me invite you to do it. Give the audience your email. There may be somebody out there that says, I would like to communicate with this lady. I'm going through the same thing, or my spouse is going through the same thing. I would love to, quote, talk to her, or become an emailer with her.
Sure. It's Pam Harris 1 at LightTube, and it's LIGHTTUBE.net.
Always interesting remembering.
Pam Harris 1 at lighttube.net.
Well, this has been a potpourri of a program, which is what we enjoy. And you can see what's out there. I am so optimistic about the future, believe it or not, because the Eds and the Steves and the Pam, this is the majority of folks out there. Believe it or not, what you hear in the news, what you see on the streaming, what you talk to people, this is our people, this is our faith, and this is our future. Thank you all for sharing the moments with us, and keep up the character.